Assassin's Creed is a very long-running franchise, and each entry has something new it brings to the table. In this video, we'll be looking at 5 features that I think are great and I'd like to see in future games. Before we start, I'd appreciate it if you guys could leave a like and subscribe. We're close to 35,000 and you can always change your mind later. With that being said, let's get right into it. Number 1. Unlocking special armor. This was a great thing in the early games. The new games have tried to capture the same feeling, such as the cave weapons in Mirage or Excalibur in Valhalla, but none of them really compare to unlocking the armor sets from the first few games. In Assassin's Creed 2, you were introduced to the armor of Altair pretty early in the game, and in order to obtain it, you had to play the Assassin 2 missions. Each tomb had a very important assassin or assassin-like figure buried there. Future games would tie some of these characters in. Both Aya from AC Origins and Darius from AC Odyssey have a tomb, and I'm sure we'll eventually see all of these guys in future games. As you travel through different cities, you'll stumble across these tombs and hopefully you'll play them. These tombs have great parkour and puzzles that show off the parkour system when it was actually good. The armor of Altair also plays a pivotal role in the game, and it wasn't just some side quest or collectible. Ezio's journey was tied to Altair's codex, and he would no doubt want to obtain his armor. He even starts the next game with it equipped. Speaking of Assassin's Creed Brotherhood, this game has the armor of Brutus. Brutus is a pretty well-known historical figure who helped assassinate Caesar, which we see in AC Origins. It's a shame Brutus didn't wear his armor in that game because it's treated as a very legendary armor set in Brotherhood. To get this armor, you had to do similar tomb missions, but you were fighting a cult called the Followers of Romulus. One of my favorite missions in Brotherhood is where you have to chase a priest through a stormy church while a mass is going on inside. It's just peak Assassin's Creed, you can't really describe it. The set functions the same as the armor of Altair, but I don't think it really looks that great, so I just stick with the default robes. In AC Revelations, you had the Ishak Pasha armor. This armor doesn't look too good, but I guess it's an improvement from the armor of Brutus. To get this armor, you had to find some scattered memoirs of the generals and then play a tomb mission. I don't really like the idea of having armor sets locked behind collectibles instead of actual missions, but I guess you still had a tomb mission, so whatever. All 3 of these armor sets were unbreakable, no matter the amount of damage you took. It could definitely save Ezio some money since you won't have to stop by a blacksmith to get your armor repaired every 5 minutes. After Revelations, they scrapped the idea of armor entirely. Now you just had outfits and regenerating health, which I don't really mind. In fact, I prefer this. They still tried to keep a special unlockable item in each following game, but I don't think they ever replicated the original feeling of unlocking the armor of Altair. In AC3, you had Captain Kidd's treasure, which was a shard of Eden. To unlock this, you had to collect trinkets across the open world and then play the Captain Kidd missions. The act of collecting the trinkets is mind-numbing, but the actual Captain Kidd missions are some of the best tomb missions we've seen in the franchise. One of the missions had you escape a sinking ship, and another had you sneak into a fort, get part of the map, and then escape the fort while your ship bombards it. Once you collect all the parts of the map, you can do the final mission where Connor goes to the cave and collects the shard. The Shard of Eden functions as a shield from bullets, which will reflect enemy fire. I personally like this since you can always have the buff no matter what outfit you wear. If you unlock the armor of Brutus and decide not to wear it, you also lose the advantage of having unbreakable armor, which sucks. I like what AC3 did. In Black Flag, you had 2 unlockable outfits, the Templar armor and the Mayan armor. The Templar armor made you more resistant to enemy attacks, whereas the Mayan armor made you immune to musket fire. To unlock the Templar armor, you had to play through the Templar hunts, which are pretty boring side missions, but whatever, it's Black Flag, it can't be that bad. However, the Mayan armor had you collect 30 Mayan keys around the open world. At that point, it's up to you whether it's worth it or not. After Black Flag, the unlockable armor sets get pretty bad. I don't think it's worth going in depth into any of them, but we'll quickly go over a few of them. Rogue had you do 25 buried treasure collectibles to get this 11th century Templar outfit, which is way too much. First you had to find the map, and then you had to figure out where the picture was referring to. After that you had to travel there if you didn't have fast travel. Then you had to find the location, probably doing a viewpoint or 2 to get a scout of the area. You could probably beat the entirety of Rogue before you get all of the keys. However, I will say the armor does look pretty good and it gives me AC1 vibes. It's not worth doing, however. Unity had this dyed Altair outfit, which is pretty cool. You had to solve riddles to unlock the armor, which is better than mindless collectibles. I don't know if Syndicate even had anything like it, I doubt it, but let me know if I'm wrong. Origins had the Isu outfit, Odyssey, Valhalla, and Mirage had nothing. The idea of having a special armor set that was unlocked through special missions was super cool. The second Ubisoft asked you to collect hundreds of collectibles for an outfit ruined the entire vibe of it. Nobody complained about unlocking the armor of Altair or Brutus since the way you unlocked it made it worth it. You had fun missions to play and then a legendary armor set to acquire. Hopefully we see something similar to the armor of Altair, Brutus, or the Captain Kidd treasure in the future entries. Sorry for going on about the armor sets, I'll try to keep these next ones a bit shorter. Next up we have the Distrust areas. The fact that Assassin's Creed Valhalla of all games introduced this is wild to me. Stealth was always an important aspect of each game, but it always felt kind of limited in my opinion. The open world had two zones. You had a restricted area or not a restricted area. Valhalla introduced the feature of a distrust zone, meaning that you shouldn't be here, but nobody is actively looking for intruders. A buddy of mine tried sneaking into another one of my friend's schools and got through the first few periods before getting kicked out. It's like that, but let's get back to Assassin's Creed. The idea of having an area or town that doesn't really welcome you is pretty cool. It's like if a Templar spy walked into Monteriggioni. I don't think the guards there are going to immediately recognize the spy, but if the spy calls attention to themselves, the guards might investigate. In Valhalla, Eivor would wear her cloak to cover her weapons and not draw attention to herself in these areas. If she moved too quickly, pulled out her weapons, or tried to parkour, the guards would investigate. It's a shame this feature is only in Valhalla since the stealth is still broken in some areas and was even worse at launch. It would be neat if future games had towns or small areas where the only way to get where you were going is by using social stealth. Make the rooftops have archers or something, and make the streets have tons of opportunities for you to use social stealth and distract the guards. Assassin's Creed Shadows not having social stealth is a big missed opportunity in my eyes, but hopefully future games will bring this back. The next feature I'd like to talk about is the Animus training program from Assassin's Creed Brotherhood. This feature basically functioned as a challenge map from the Batman Arkham games. It had combat, stealth, and parkour challenges for you to try. If you wanted to just screw around and fight guards, you didn't have to pick fights in the open world. Instead, you could just load into one of these training programs and fight the guards. The parkour challenges are also a highlight since it actually tested your skill. You couldn't just hold one button and get the gold medal. Instead, you had to take advantage of the side ejects and the catch ledge feature. These training features functioned into the story since it was actually Desmond practicing his skills inside the Animus. You could also unlock the Raiden skin, which is pretty nice. If future games don't bring this feature back, I'd like to see a challenge map type thing similar to the Batman Arkham games. The maps could test your stealth and combat skills without being part of the story. It would allow you to have fun without having to replay missions or go out of your way to find fights. Next up, we have the Cult of Cosmos, or the Order of Ancient Menu. In most of the early games, you pretty much knew who the main antagonist was and the targets you'd be hunting pretty much off the bat. In AC1 it was Robert, in AC2 it was Rodrigo, Brotherhood had Cesare, 3 had Lee, Black Flag had the Governor, and so on. The Templars were built up to be unstoppable with the amount of people they supposedly had under their belt. I don't know if it's just me, but I feel like in some of the games you barely kill enough Templars in the main story to make it feel like you destroyed their order. In both Odyssey and Valhalla, it felt like the Templars and the cult were very influential with the amount of people they had. It's worth mentioning that the older games had Templars in their side missions and assassination contracts. However, I personally like that there are some targets that we don't know about and we need to piece together clues to figure out their identity. Granted, neither the cult or the Order of Ancient system were perfect. It sometimes felt like there were too many targets and it could get a bit overwhelming at times. Adding on to that, the fact that more than half the targets were people you never met was pretty underwhelming. My favorite part of the system is piecing together who the head of the order is and the person in charge of each branch. The arc where you figure out who the cultist king is in Odyssey comes to mind. Sometimes, however, the head of the branch will be a literal nobody. I'm fine with some of the members making up the branch to be nobodies, but the head should be someone important. Whether it's in a side quest or a main quest, the leader of each branch shouldn't be treated like an average cultist or order member. In future AC games, I hope this returns in some capacity, but with some meaningful changes. Don't make a majority of the cultists or Templars people you've never heard of. Make the leader of each branch someone important and known in the world. And have a White Room confession for each target, maybe make it based on their background information we know. And for our final feature, we have learning skills as the game goes on. In the newer games, we have skill trees which are very underwhelming. They are often filled with useless stats like I can buy more things from a store or I get more XP when I assassinate someone. In the Ezio trilogy, Ezio learned his skills from different people. Paola taught him how to blend and use social stealth. Through Leonardo, he learned how to use the poison blade, darts, and hidden gun. Antonio and Rosa taught him climbing techniques. In Brotherhood, he got parachutes and more weapons that he could use. In Revelations, he learned how to use the hook blade and bombs from Yusuf. Other games have had similar stuff, but it never felt the same. In Valhalla and Mirage, you learn the leap of faith and can't perform it until you do. I think that's about it. Learning skills as your character grows was so much cooler than hitting the pause button and spending imaginary skill points on random abilities. Future games should have skills or abilities that your character can perform off the bat, but are not taught until later in the game. It could change the way you replay the game. Imagine if there was a fort or something you had to infiltrate, but your character didn't learn a side eject yet. When you replay the game, you could use a side eject to get inside the fort instead of how the game would actually expect you to. Ezio could perform his hook and run or hook and throw before Yusuf teaches you, but you literally learn the skill in the next mission after you get the hook blade. In Revelations, you could also do the climb leap before the game teaches you, but if you played the previous games, you probably already knew about the skill. Anyways, that's it for this video. If you guys enjoyed, be sure to let me know, maybe leave a comment. I'll try to respond to all of them. If you guys have any features that I missed, let me know. If this video does good, I'm open to making a part 2. Thanks for watching and have a great rest of your day.